handouts today. We have our usual notes, and then Gary gave us a handout front and back. The children of Israel go down to Egypt and identifies all the children of Israel and Jacob and their children. And then on the flip side, Jacob's descendants, so another different type of breakout. And then at the bottom, in the same year Joseph went to Egypt, what happened to all the brothers, the things that they did. So, interesting stuff that I don't remember being uncovered, except for Reuben marrying.
I was kind of shocked that Simon married his sister.
Come on, was that, they could do that
Simeon, you mean?
for real?
What?
Who married?
Marry your
Simeon
sister?
Simeon married.
his sister.
Oh, I
Dinah?
know that.
Yeah.
Well,
Probably nobody else
she wasn't
wanted her.
destitute then.
Yeah.
So,
Well, isn't that called incest?
Well, back then, who knows? Well, come on, they had multi-wives.
it is
but-
now, and then when we get to Leviticus and Deuteronomy, we'll see that it's outlawed. But remember, nobody wanted it.
Right, because she'd
Because
been raped.
the only guy that she could have married and who wanted to marry her, her brother's killed.
Right.
And then no one would want her because she's been defiled.
Well, maybe he wasn't a good catch either, so what the hey, they deserved each other.
And it doesn't mean that they did anything.
Okay.
He married her, brought her into his
Right.
house.
In name
so-
only, maybe.
Maybe so he could take care of her.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Otherwise, she'd be,
Yeah.
Right.
have no way
She
of.
had no
way of taking. The right of Abraham.
Okay.
Half sister, half brother, yeah.
Yeah, let's think good thoughts on that.
Right. Yep. And then-
Were there 70 in total? Is that what it said?
Yeah,
Well, that's what my Bible said it was.
Yeah.
70 or 75, depending on what you're reading.
This all came about because my friend said that genealogy in 46 was kind of hard to follow, so I did a little poking around.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then, since we always talk
Thank
about
you.
numbers, there's another handout from a website called The Meaning of Numbers in the Bible. And I sent you guys I don't think I sent you the email yet, Sally.
I don't know. I haven't been in it.
Okay, I sent the email to just about everybody for this website, so you can click on the link and then save it to your favorites, and you can go there. It gives a description of, I think, 25 different numbers that appear in the Bible. And what I found interesting was that in one out of every 5 verses, a number appears in the Bible. So God intends to send us a message through those numbers. And there's a sample of the number 70, what each entry looks like. So it's a pretty cool website.
All right, well, off the topic, our numbers, we recognize, what kind of numbers did they use back then? Were they not Roman numerals?
No, they weren't Roman numerals, because Rome wasn't there yet.
Right.
So in Hebrews, they actually used their letters as numbers. And they just put little indicators to tell you that it was a number instead of a letter. So that makes Hebrew even tougher to translate. Because until King David came around, they didn't have vowels. And then numbers were just the consonants with little, maybe a tick mark or a dot over it or under it to tell you that it was a number. So really difficult to translate.
I think that's a Powerball pretty good.
Yeah,
It'll mess up
Thank God they only
Powerball
threw
pretty
lots.
good.
Yeah. Have just a good chance
didn't have
of
the
winning.
Powerball.
They're just out in Hawaii, it's very few consonants in the Hawaiian language.
In Hawaii, yeah.
They're all vowels.
Wow.
Yeah.
They should have gotten together with the Hebrews and got a good
Yeah.
language.
Well, who's
I think there's only 13 consonants.
Which
Hawaiian,
Hawaiian.
Hawaiian.
really?
Yeah, that's why the names always look so funny.
Yeah, this.
Kinkamehameha.
Well, and that's what, they're so hard to pronounce too.
No, they're not. If you know they're all vowels, then you can pronounce them real easy.
Right, but we're so used to, like, a second vowel is usually silent in the
Well,
first
when
one
the
is.
missionaries came, the Hawaiians spoke the language, and the missionaries had to write it down in English, and that's how
Yeah.
they had to write down the sounds,
Oh, sure.
so that it ended up making it all
They
vowels.
didn't have a written language at the time? No? Okay.
Just,
Drums.
Just the drums and hand motions, but they didn't have any writing.
We got handouts, Rich, on the table.
Yeah.
Three of
Isn't
them.
it funny
Yeah,
that,
good
you know, they didn't have to write to communicate in some,
Well, if you go to Hawaii now, if you're on one island, and they've never been to another island, Oahu is only, I believe, 17 miles long and 12 miles wide.
Right.
And they have never been, many of them, very few have ever been off that island. So they cannot imagine 200 miles. Everybody thinks, anybody from Illinois goes to Chicago, that's no, that's 200 miles. 200 miles?
Yeah. What's interesting is we were on a flight once, remember, going between islands, and there was a football team on the plane to play another football team on another island.
Yeah.
oh my
It
goodness.
was like weird, it was like the bus.
Yeah, yeah.
It was,
Instead of a
yeah.
Well, they had to fly out all their milk and a lot of.
Hawaiian
And
Air,
flights are like this.
Yeah.
Up,
down.
Yeah.
You get a drink, okay, we'll pick the cups up now.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
small
Can't drink fast.
As you're going up.
All
go
right,
down.
so we're getting close to the end of Genesis.
Yay!
And Joseph reveals himself to his brothers.
I like the way he had to ask everybody to leave because he was so overtaken and he had to tell them he had enough, and I like that he just told everyone to go.
I thought about that. I wonder if he was concerned about what the Egyptians would think of him, his family being there.
I don't know, because at the end they said everybody knew.
Yeah.
And I don't think Pharaoh would have minded, because he
Well,
did to
no,
go
he didn't.
back to Pharaoh and talk to him.
Right. And what I found interesting was that he did that just so his brothers could see that it was him. Because remember, in the past, when he cried, he would leave the room.
Yeah.
Oh.
And he was
Right.
talking to them through interpreters before that.
Right.
He had
So,
everybody leave so he could speak to them.
yeah.
Okay.
So this time, he chased the Egyptians out, because he wanted to be with his brothers.
He really wanted to know about his dad, whether his
Yes.
father was still alive.
Right, right. And he wept so loudly, the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. So, no matter if he chased them out or not, they still found out,
Because he cried so
because
loudly.
he cried so loudly. And it was all because of Judah's speech in the previous chapter that he got so emotional. And remember, Judah's speech in the last chapter was the longest speech in the entire Bible. Good speech. What else?
Oh, that he gave them new clothes. Is that, I'm jumping way ahead.
No, that's okay, that's okay. Yeah, before that, he says, "Come close to me."
Yeah.
And
So,
hugged them.
go ahead. Huh?
He hugged them.
He hugged them. And also, he did that because, think of kings and queens and higher-ups and lowly people. They had to keep a distance between them. So here, he gets rid of all the formalities, and he comes closer to his brothers to show, once again, you guys have nothing to be afraid of. It's me, you know, I'm your brother. So that's why he got close.
well, and then he was reassuring them about, because they had sold him into slavery, he wasn't holding that against them.
Right.
And that was pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he said God sent him here to help people.
Right.
To help them,
Right,
to save their lives.
right.
It's God's plan for all of it
Yeah.
to happen.
And no matter what his brothers did to him, as bad as they were, he forgave them. So God's sending us a message saying, if Joseph could forgive his brothers, we should be able to forgive pretty much anything that happens to us. Yeah, verse 7 is pretty cool. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance.
That would have been a remnant for the whole Jewish nation.
Right, exactly, because they are the Jewish nation right now.
Right.
And God's plan was, we've got to save these people somehow. And he's going to save them through Joseph. No matter how he had to get Joseph there, he did it. And through Joseph going through these trials, he learned a lot. He was humbled by being in prison and being accused and being in prison again. So it really, God's plan worked out perfectly.
Isn't it funny, though, that God chose Egypt?
Yeah.
You know, they struggled to get out of Egypt forever and ever and ever, and yet that was where they had to go back to be saved. It's so ironic, I think.
And we'll see that throughout the Bible.
Throughout the Bible.
Where
Yeah.
God uses
David had to,
unsaved people.
Right.
David had to take Jesus and leave the country and go to Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Abraham had to go there. Now Joseph has to go there. Now
Right.
Jacob's got to take his whole family there.
Right.
And then later Jesus will have to escape.
And Moses
there.
will take them back.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. And Joseph just keeps reaffirming, it wasn't you guys who sent me here. Even though you put me into slavery, it was all God's plan. So Joseph's really starting to realize that it's all God now. What else do we have here in the first couple verses?
Well, I think he was glad to see all of his brothers, but Benjamin the most.
Yep.
They had a special bond, I guess, because same mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gave Benjamin 5 sets of clothing.
Right, instead of three, yeah.
And silver.
Well, I wondered, Benjamin, his mother died when he was born,
Right.
so maybe Joseph kind of, was a lot closer to him, but not take care of him, but yet pay him.
Yeah, initially when I saw Joseph giving Benjamin 5 extra sets of clothes, still this guy gets special treatment. But then again, like Pam says, we don't know the special bond that these brothers have. Because we didn't come from a family that had 4 mothers
Yeah.
and 4 sets of siblings. We have no idea what the dynamics were like. So maybe this was natural.
They both had the same mother.
Was there
Sure
sort of an
is.
element at first where you wanted to make sure Benjamin was all right, too?
Yeah.
Having been in a similar position, his old position?
Yeah,
So
and,
on.
and that's why Judah's speech in chapter 44 was so important. Because Judah's saying, don't take Benjamin, because we couldn't bear it and our father can't bear it. So that speech told Joseph, these guys have really changed.
Yeah.
Because last week we were talking about why was Joseph testing these guys so much? He had to, because first off, he didn't trust them. He figured that these are probably the same guys that threw me in the pit and sold me into slavery. But then through Judah, they found out that no, they really are changed. They're transformed. And I think that's why Joseph acted like he did, so emotional.
So this is the second time the 5 came up, 5 portions of food and 5 sets of clothing.
You're right, yeah. So now we gotta look up the number 5 on our website.
Randy told them, don't spike the football yet, because there's 5 more years of famine to come.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
They're only in year 2
Number 5.
of the
I
famine.
thought that was kind of interesting, that right at the beginning of when he's greeting them all back, he said, I'm gonna take care of you, but remember, there's 5 more bad years to come.
Hunker down, because we're not done yet.
We're not plowing and reaping.
Nope.
But why did you get there then if the famine had been going on for 2 years?
Yep. Because remember, in a couple chapters earlier, they ate all the food they had, and they couldn't raise any more. All they had was pistachios and almonds. And then Jacob says, what are you guys sitting around for? Do something. Go to Egypt. And that's when they said, well, we can't go to Egypt unless we take Benjamin.
Jumping ahead, it was also a fifth of the harvest was
Yep.
for the pharaohs. So,
Now we got
That's
to
another
look at that
5.
number.
I know.
I wrote it down, so we'll check out the number 5 when we get home.
Definitely.
All right, what else do we have here?
Well, he goes to tell Pharaoh his family's here.
And Pharaoh was very happy.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was. So Pharaoh, he must have at one time told Pharaoh the whole story.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Because if he would have told Pharaoh the whole story, Pharaoh would have needed to be convinced that these guys are okay. Because if Joseph said, my brothers sold me into slavery and they're real schmucks, I don't think Pharaoh would have been excited.
And they were Hebrews, so that made him, interesting too, that he still welcomed them
Yeah.
anyway.
And they shepherds, that was.
Oh, it was just, right, yeah.
I
he
think
said
that was even worse than being Hebrew, when I read it. in the
About being
Bible.
shepherds?
Yeah, 'cause that's the lowest of the low.
They're
Yeah.
so lowly, that's
I read in my
unrespected.
notes that that's why.
I suppose they
Pharaoh
smelled.
made them
Well, that's what I figured, because the sheep.
outcasts.
Of course, they had a lot of air out there in the
I know.
pasture.
Well,
I don't think it even
they don't
bathed
have-
very often.
They don't have
Well,
place to
they
stay.
wanted them to go by a
Nobody
different
did, I
name.
doubt.
They were carriers of livestock. They weren't supposed to use the name shepherd.
Caretakers.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right, they said, yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't get that.
I didn't either, but
But
don't
then when
use
push
that
came to
word.
shove, they said they were shepherds.
Yeah, but they weren't
He-
supposed to use
Don't
that.
Yeah.
tell people that you take care of livestock.
I think God
Yeah.
probably put it in their mind because he wanted them separated. God wanted them separated
Right.
from the heathens, or whatever you call them, Egyptians.
Right, Joseph knew that he had to keep them separated.
I like the way in verse 24 where he sends his brothers away to go back to get dad and don't quarrel on the way. I was like,
Said what?
That sounds like what Mother tells
he's telling his brothers not to quarrel on the way home.
It sounds
It was
like
kind
a
of
brother with a
interesting.
brother.
Yeah, exactly. He was the younger one.
So maybe he really did take after her and, okay, so mom passed away, now I gotta take care of Benjamin.
Yep,
Don't quarrel on the way.
yeah, that was pretty good.
Kind of interesting, the Bible doesn't have anything about their journey, just they went. A couple of week period, it could have been a whole lot of interesting comments.
Yeah, yeah. But the Bible always gives us the things we need to know, not the extraneous information.
And then they had to re-explain the whole story to poor
Yeah.
Jacob.
Yeah.
He didn't know what they did.
No,
He thought
fill 'em in.
he was eaten by a
He's
goat.
stunned.
Right.
And it's oral tradition, so
Right, yeah. They
You
can't
know,
read, they can't
no.
write it down.
they have to stick to the high points, I guess.
Yep. And Jacob was stunned, he did not believe them. But when they told him everything Joseph had said to them, so that's why they had to repeat it
He
over and
saw
over
the
again.
hearts of Joseph.
So
Yes.
if he said all the words that Joseph had said to him, does that necessarily mean that they told their father what they had done?
They
Well,
might-
for him to be alive,
they
they have
might
to have
finally
told
have-
Dad.
Well, they could
Yeah.
plead, they didn't, see, they supposedly said to to Jacob, that, they found his clothes and they're full of blood, that an animal got him.
Yeah.
They didn't
But
say
I-
they saw an animal
But
get
I
him.
think that they felt really, really, really guilty about it.
Oh, I'm
like,
sure.
for years and years and years.
Oh, so you
Not
think
that
they told
just
him
came
anyway?
clean to Dad
Yeah.
and had that
Maybe.
over with.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think they finally came to the realization that
Quit lying.
we
Goats
gotta quit
probably
lying.
don't eat,
Yeah.
or, yeah.
Yeah.
Humans.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And the spirit of their father Jacob revived.
They
Gosh,
were
imagine how
stunned
you'd
by
feel.
stunned with a heart attack.
Wouldn't that be
or
something if you
fell
thought your
or-
child was dead?
I think he was just
He's
depressed
130
for all
years
those
old now, isn't he, or
years.
100?
But enough to send him into a heart
He's
attack.
finally
He's
happy.
what, 130 years old?
Yeah.
I think so.
No
Yeah,
wonder he
they
was
say
never.
134, something like that.
No wonder they didn't want to travel without him and worry about him.
Yeah, he's old.
In verse 22, not only did Benjamin get 5 changes of clothes, why would he have 300 pieces of silver also?
Well, in case he had to stop.
300 shekels.
Yeah. You give him a little bit of cash. Why?
I have no idea.
Who knows?
Because he was his favorite.
Well, you-
He was
He
starting to
might have
play
some candy
just
on the
like
way
his
home.
dad.
Yeah.
Or a soda pop.
Yeah, because he's the baby.
Oh, okay.
And once again, we see the flipping back and forth between Jacob and Israel.
Uh-huh. Noticed that a lot.
Yep.
They had to be good listeners to remember everything that was said, to repeat it back accurately.
And I think that's part of the process when you're used to hearing words a lot or hearing stories, you probably just learn how to capture things a little bit better.
Kind of like the old game where you say something and you pass it around.
Chinese
Yeah.
telephone.
Telephone, yeah.
Then
Yeah.
That's always
And
fun.
brothers could have heard something a little bit different, you
Oh,
know?
Yeah.
How many times can you hear somebody speaking and you
Yeah.
don't really interpret it the same way that somebody else did? So they had all
That's
10 of
right.
them there to help at least.
Or one of the older guys told the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Judah,
I imagine
maybe,
Judah probably did.
yeah, because Judah seems like he's the speaker of the bunch. And then there's only one version.
But Reuben was the oldest, right?
Yeah, Reuben was the oldest.
Okay. And Reuben was the one that tried to save
Right.
Joseph from the pit.
To begin with.
Okay, so the reason,
Reuben was the bloodline of Jesus, not Joseph. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
in my
Joseph
notes,
had all the
oh,
good
sorry.
qualities.
Oh, but Reuben was the bloodline?
In my notes about the don't quarrel, it
Uh-huh.
said Joseph wanted nothing to delay their return, and he wanted to avoid mutual accusations and recrimination
Oh.
concerning the past.
Sure.
You did it. No, you're the one who, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, just get home and bring him back.
Bring dad back, right?
Just get
That
along.
makes more sense. And then I like the way God goes and talks to Israel or Jacob, and he says, "Here I am,"
Yep.
and he tells him it's okay.
Yep. And in here, in verse 40, chapter 46, verse 1, we see Israel sets out. So that's
The nation.
the whole nation, and really it was, because Jacob and his sons
Were
and
there.
all their stuff, the whole nation took off to Egypt. And then where have we seen Beersheba before?
Oh,
Is that the well that cries or something like that? I'm not for sure.
I remember seeing that too. Abraham, didn't he build an altar there?
Isaac.
Oh, Isaac
That was
did.
one of the wells that Isaac had. And Isaac built an altar there, and that's where where Jacob was worshiping, at the altar that his father built.
The commentary says that it was the 8th time that God had appeared.
At Beersheba?
No,
Beersheba?
to
To Jacob?
Israel.
Oh, to Israel.
Jacob.
Time. And God doesn't let him forget who he was. God comes to Israel in a vision at night and says, "Jacob, Jacob."
Yeah, I am God.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah, I'm God and you're not.
Yeah, the way he says, "I will surely bring you back again,
Mhm.
and Joseph's own hands will close your eyes." I think that's pretty cool.
Meaning to be there when he dies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't do it, no,
And really, this prophecy in verses 3 and 4, God's laying out the plan. The whole nation is going to go to Egypt. I'm going to make you a great nation there, because they did build in numbers, and then I'm going to bring you back. Now, bringing back could mean two things, because Jacob doesn't get buried in Egypt. Joseph brings him out, but then again, God also brings the whole nation out. So it's kind of a double meaning there.
That's why I wanted to know how many years it was from Joseph to Moses.
Yeah, so check the chart in your notes for chapter 15. It's all there, the timeline.
Okay.
I knew I saw that timeline once before.
Behind you, Janelle.
Look at the big line up
It
there.
is.
Or we could find it up there.
Yeah, that's a busy one.
Yeah, I think it's easier to look at the paper.
Yeah, that's pretty busy.
Well, all
That's
the
a lot.
times It's God's time zone, not ours. We're in a hurry to get everything done. It's been 400 years, give or take, down there.
Well, there's, in the Bible, in a couple different places, sometimes it says 400 and sometimes it says 430. When they're talking about 430, they go back to the time that Ishmael was oppressing
Isaac.
And that comes up with the extra 30 years. And then that's in the chart, in our notes for chapter 15. It breaks it out 400 and 430. So.
Well, was this family the beginning of all of the people that were in Egypt that
Yes.
became slaves?
Yep.
So their descendants, and as the years went by.
Right.
So they would all have been descended from Jacob.
Yep. And when we get into Exodus, we'll see that all the Jews were still parked in Goshen. And that's where the slavery started in Goshen, where all the Hebrews were at. And that happens real fast in Exodus, when we get to Exodus.
So they were kind of like a own nation by themselves. The Egyptians didn't want anything to do with them, so they didn't get corrupted by
Yep.
their religion and
So
lives.
it served a purpose for the Israelites, and it served a purpose for the Egyptians. The Israelites wouldn't get contaminated by taking on the Egyptian religion, and the Egyptians wouldn't get contaminated by the shepherds. So it worked out for both parties until, as God says, He made him a great nation. Because in Exodus, we'll see that the Egyptians start getting afraid that the Hebrews are more numerous than us. And we've got to do something about it.
That's why he makes them slaves.
That's why he makes them slaves.
That's according to the Moses from last week.
Yeah, so why did, they were only, 70 when they started, so how did they end up getting more numerous? They were very...
Went forth and multiplied.
Yeah, they multiplied a lot, I guess.
They had a
More
good
so than
time,
the
yeah.
They listened to God's plan.
Yeah, he made them very fertile.
I mean, everyone, when you get in this family line, some of them have like 10 children.
Yeah.
Well, and they've got multiple wives, so
Right.
it's kind of easy.
Yeah. It wasn't any.
Benjamin had 10 kids by the time he was 18.
No.
I thought that too when I read this.
And you think back to the old farm days, people had a lot of kids. 'cause
Oh,
we had
yeah.
farm days.
My dad was a family of 12.
Yeah,
Oh,
there you
yeah.
go.
Sounds like the Amish.
Yes, the Amish really have a lot of
14,
kids.
15 kids.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because
One woman.
that's the employees.
When they left Egypt, they were 2,000 men. That was the only thing they counted, so
Yeah,
that's
it's a lot of guys.
pretty fertile.
And we know that Pharaoh said, don't take any of your stuff because I'm going to give you everything. But Jacob and his sons brought everything with them.
On the carts that
On the carts.
Joseph sent, or Pharaoh sent.
All their livestock and possessions they had acquired in Canaan.
I guess carts were a big thing.
Yeah, we don't know how big
They
were.
mentioned it a couple times,
Yeah.
so.
Well, there must have been wheels.
All his offspring.
Wagons east.
And then we get the listing of all the people, all the family members, 33 in all. So who counted them? I didn't count them.
It says there are 34 names, though.
But this did not include the wives.
Right.
And they included the wives, and they made 60-something.
Here it says 66 persons in all.
I knew 60-something. And then when they added Joseph's, and they total 70.
Well, but remember here in verse 15 it says, these sons and daughters of his were 33. So the 33 only includes his sons and daughters. And-
Oh.
Yeah.
My footnotes, it says number 33, the name of Ohad, O-H-A-D, in verse 10 should probably be removed since it does not appear in the parallel list in Numbers. the Hebrew form of O-H-A-D, Oed, looks very much like the nearby Zorah, and later scribes probably added it accidentally.
Well, let's see if it's in Gary's list.
Oed,
It showed it as,
Yeah,
O-H-A-D.
he was a child of Simeon,
yeah, so in
and
Gary's
so is
list,
Zoar.
both of them
That's
are
the way
in
it is
there.
in there.
Yeah, it said Oed shouldn't be, it's Zoar, should be.
Yeah, it's in both lists
Hmm.
that Gary had,
Now, that's just this study Bible.
Right.
Who's to say that that's correct?
yeah.
Now, another interesting thought,
Or that it isn't.
through Levi, Moses
Mine says too.
is
Yeah.
a descendant.
Levi is what?
Through Moses.
Moses' line.
Yeah, was line.
Yes. Because we just talked about that in Awana.
Oh.
Because his parents, Moses' dad, was Levi.
The priest.
Yep.
So this lineage comes up in Exodus also, in Numbers, or it's just,
In Numbers, I don't know if it's in Exodus.
No, it says,
Because Numbers is where we get all the lineages.
I don't know, what's CH? First Chronicles, first CH?
Chronicles.
It's in there too.
Okay,
And Exodus 6:15.
okay.
thought it was interesting, there's hardly any repeat of names.
And I'm sure they don't have those names
Sorry,
today.
they all look alike.
That is interesting when you think about names today, how some names are over and over again.
Get a third or a fourth.
Totally.
Well, you don't like Muppin and Huppin?
Who's that one?
It's Sons of Benjamin, Muppin and Huppin.
I was wondering if those would happen to be twins.
It could be, yeah.
I thought it sounded like twin names.
Yeah,
Huppin.
Muppin and Huppin. Crazy.
Sounds like Peter Rabbit.
It does.
Somebody will probably write a song about that someday.
Yeah.
Well, in verse 15, we get 33 because in Genesis 28, chapter 28, verses 10 through 15, God promised Jacob that your descendants would be as numerous as the dust. And the number 33 is connected to God's promises. So
Oh,
that's how that number works out. And you find that on the website for the numbers. And then we get our 70. In verse 27, with the two sons who had been born to Joseph in Egypt, the members of Jacob's family which went to Egypt were 70 in all. And that would include the wives and everybody. So that's how we get the doubling, the 66.
what a family reunion.
Yeah.
And that's how Jesus was lost and forgotten for 3 days at the
Right,
temple.
because there's so many people.
Yeah, I could see that.
So except for his brothers, he didn't know any of
No,
Children.
yeah, you're right.
his brothers.
But we know how that could happen because we have a friend, Phil Bauer. How many kids did they have? Was it 6, 7, or 8?
A lot,
I lose count.
7, 8.
So they were on a family trip one time. They had a big van.
No, a station wagon, the old-fashioned station wagon.
Yeah, and they got 3 or 4 miles down the road and they found out that they forgot one. So they would go back to the gas station and pick up one of the brothers. I think it was a brother.
Yeah, it was a brother, it
They only
wasn't
had
Phil.
2 sisters.
Phil sat in the back going, and they're waving goodbye to him. Of course, they didn't, say anything till they were further down the
Right,
road.
yeah, the brothers didn't care if he was missing.
No. It's a funny story, but
So yeah, that's how Jesus could get lost.
Sure.